Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with entrepreneur and e-commerce expert Steve Kilberg. He has over 20 years of online experience. The past 5 years, he has focused specifically on e-commerce. He started a eCom business over a discussion at dinner one night, and it grew into 7 figures. He really started his business journey after making a decision to take care of his aging parents. We get into the whole story and much more. Enjoy this interview.
Wonderful, Steve. Thank you for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And before we get into your life and what you do and what motivates you, I want to know the last couple of years on planet Earth has been quite tumultuous with COVID. Now that we're emerging, I'm curious how you survived that time period and how it subsequently changed not only the way that you lead your life, but the way you conduct business.
That's a great question. Some of the big takeaways are just to do lots of research and make sure that we're informed about what was going on for the last couple of years on all facets, meaning personal health and then our business, how all this tied together, and then really to kind of roll that back up because these are related. Is that just to focus on our health, making sure we're getting enough sleep, we're eating properly, and trying to get much exercise as possible so we can prepare our bodies as much as we can. There's certain things that are obviously out of our control, but what we can control, we want to control, and then that relates into our business as well and what we do.
What I'm going to do to kind of simplify, I know you're an e-commerce, you're an entrepreneur. I want to make this more readily digestible to the audience. So I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders in career day. And one of the kids looks up at you and says, what is it that you do for a living, and how are you qualified to do it? How would you answer them?
That's a great question. So what I do now is I help small businesses, whether they're e-commerce or SaaS businesses, grow that are currently less than $5 million in sales. So I help them grow and then get ready so they can actually have an exit experience and sell their asset. Now, it depends on where they're at in that process. Some are ready to sell today, but there's a lot that aren't, and they're missing a lot of things that's going to cost them money. And the reason that I'm qualified is my business. My wife and I started the business from an idea at dinner one night and grew it to 7 figures before the pandemic really put a crushing blow to our business. But we're in the process of rebuilding that right now because I know how all this works. And the other thing that I would share is that anybody can do this, because if you'd have told me 5 years ago that we would start a business from an idea at dinner one night, grow it to 7 figures, contemplate selling it, choose not to, and then have everything kind of fall apart, but now in the process of redoing it, I've seen all the ins and outs. And so now that I'm consulting with businesses as well, because I've got this experience, I'm seeing the same mistakes that businesses are making over and over again. And if they ever choose to sell, which they should be at least thinking about at some point, because life changes, as we've learned over the last couple of years, then you want to make sure that you're going to provide, get your the best foot forward so you can get the most out of your asset when you go to make that exit experience. And that's what I'm doing now, and I'm having the time of my life.
So when you were in the third grade, what did you envision your life being? What did you want to be when you grew up?
When I grew up, I wanted to have the biggest things where I wanted to have flexibility. When you really think about it, obviously you want to be wealthy, and that definition, it comes in many terms, and it's obviously an individual definition. So some want to be just wealthy in monetary terms, others want to be healthy or wealthy in relationships, some in health, all those types of things. But really, it was just to be happy and to live a fulfilled life. So I'm always laughing and having fun. While it's easier said than done, where we're at now, looking back, especially over the last couple of years, I think we've accomplished that, and I'm excited for the future, quite frankly.
So let's go back in your life. Tell me a little bit about where you were born and raised, kind of how these seeds of business got into you and how you turned into who you are today.
Yeah, so my father worked I'm from the Detroit area originally, and my father worked in the automobile industry, and he used to always kind of encourage me to do something on my own because while there are many benefits working for a large corporation, such as one that was in the automobile industry, there are a lot of hamstrings, if you will. And I saw my father have those dreams and aspirations, but never was willing to take that risk. And looking back now that I'm older, I can see why, because he wanted to provide for his family. And it was obviously a level of fear, but he always had that inkling, and he always kind of put that seed in my head. And so I actually did the traditional thing, went to college, and then actually went back to business school, got my MBA, and then started working in different companies in the online space. Now I define it as worked in different parts of the food chain, from very small startup companies to large companies as well. And I always had this dream and vision, if I ever had the opportunity, that I would like to take advantage of something where I could start my own business or be involved in something where I could really get and make an impact. And while I had a couple of ones that came across my career, that the companies were still larger, like 20, 50, 100 employees. And so I could make an impact, but it wasn't quite the same. And then I had a job separation, and I said, okay, now is my time. And my parents at that point were getting older, so I made a conscious choice to take care of them as they aged and then subsequently passed away. But I was very happy and proud that I made that decision. But that forced me to say, okay, it's either do or die. You got to do this now or not. So through trials and tribulations, we've got this far, and I've had more fun in business and my professional career in the last 5 to 6 years. Also the most stressful times based on what happened in the last few years, but in those last couple of years that I've had in my entire career. And that is something I'm so happy I did, because I see friends right now who are thinking of the future and thinking of retirement, and they're counting down the months until they retire. And I just feel so sorry for them, because what I'm doing now, I don't think I'll ever stop doing it.
So sometimes we're only as good as those shoulders we stand on. Who's been a hero or a role model for you in your life that's inspired you?
Outside of my father, there's been some different business mentors that I've come across over the last 5 to 10 years that have really inspired me and pushed me where I needed to be pushed and challenged me. And there's just a handful of ones. Would you like me to name names, or I can do that if you'd like, but it depends on what you're looking for.
No, that's fine. Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, if you wanted to name a few, that's fine. I just kind of wanted to get a gauge of who
Sure.
that person was in your life.
Yeah, well, it was my father to start with, for sure.
So let's kind of up the ante a little bit on this. If you could meet anybody alive on the planet right now and talk to them and have a little time, who would it be?
Well, I would say there's a gentleman that has been an inspiration to me and a coach and a mentor, and I've had some time with him, but I would love to be in a room with him for an hour, and that would be Roland Frazier.
The one thing that's interesting about being a business, and you talked about, the comfort of being in the company and all of that, is I'm always fascinated by the fact that business leaders and entrepreneurs embrace failure. For most people, that's a really hard thing to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So
Yep.
How do you get to a point where you adopt that mentality and you're okay with it because you know that that's going to lead to greater things?
That's a great question. Well, there's obviously, when you first start doing this, there's a lot of fear because you're afraid to make mistakes and you just don't know what you don't know. And as you progress and have those little wins along the way, you start to recognize that failure is part of the process. It is not a straight line. There's nothing in any kind of thing in business or even a traditional career that's going to be a straight line. But I've learned as I've grown through this is that failure is just learning opportunities to move forward faster is the bottom line. So I embrace them now. I mean, I don't look for them to make them, but I just move forward, taking action as best I can, and then trying to stop each week to look back, or even each day to say, okay, what did I learn from that experience yesterday, and how can that move me forward or make me go faster? And when I stop and contemplate that, even on a morning basis or weekly basis, I will always look back and see experiences or encounters that I've had that week, that when I frame it that way and say, okay, what I learned from that, it's like, oh, there was a takeaway right there. It's like, okay, there's another data point for me to keep moving in this direction.
What motivates? What is it about your life that keeps you going, that makes you look forward to what you're doing, and subsequently, at the end of the day, how do you quantify a good day?
What motivates me to keep moving forward is just freedom. That's the number one definition that I would say. And what motivates me to keep going forward is I'm having so much fun right now. I just have such a passion for learning and applying it to my business, what I'm specialized in. And I just get excited and energized when I come across something new and unique and seeing how I can apply it to my business and or life, whether it's business or health. or just personal, I just get enthralled and motivated by that. And so then I try to share that with others in various ways through, communication, through conversations like this, or through emails, or through, video content, or any kind of interaction I have. I just try to remain positive and be that motivation for somebody else. Because I've learned as well that you don't know who you're touching in a positive way each and every day, and no matter what encounters we're coming across, and just simple things like even open the door for somebody going into a store, that may bring that little bit of brightness to that person, and you don't realize it sometimes, but then when that happens, that person says thank you with a smile. That is something that is a small example, but it also just is an example from my perspective on motivating me to keep moving forward and doing those things each and every day.
So one thing about getting older is that you accumulate wisdom and, you refine who you are, the beauty of age. So let's say you have a dream tonight, let's say you have a dream tonight and you run into the young version of yourself, like in your 20s, and you could give that version a piece of advice based on what you've learned in your life. What would you tell your young version?
To trust yourself and to trust the process, and when others that you're looking up to tell you to do, take certain actions, to believe them, because they're giving you their best advice most of the time, and to follow that, but really just to believe in yourself and trust yourself, because that's, I think, a reason a lot of people hold back, because they're just hesitant because they have that little bit of lack of trust in their abilities. And the other thing that ties into that is don't make decisions based on what other people are going to think about you, because it's human nature to do that, and we've all done that, myself included. We've held back because you're concerned about what family or friends would think of you, and that, once I recognize that is irrelevant, that's been such a liberating feeling, and it leads to the freedom, which also that I mentioned earlier, but that is something that holds a lot of people back, which I think is really unfortunate.
So everyone out there has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your clients, but ultimately you live your life. You're in control of who you are. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm a nice guy. I think people see me that way based on the interactions and feedback I get. They see me as having a lot of high energy. I get that feedback a lot as well. And I think somebody that, again, is positive and good energy and just a warm-hearted person. That's what I envision myself that comes across, and I hope that that's the case.
Excellent. Steve, let's get to the good business here. If anybody wants to learn more about you and your services, anything related to your world, where is the best place for them to go?
Yeah, wonderful. They can visit skrpmedia.com/call. They can set up a free call with me, and if there's ways I can help their business out, I'm more than willing to do a free call with them. So that URL again is skrpmedia, all one word. So skrpmedia.com/call, CALL, and that's how they can get in touch with me.
Wonderful, Steve. This has been great. Thank you for opening up. Thanks for taking some time out. Good luck with everything as we move forward. Have a great holiday season in 2023.
Thank you, Joe. Same to you, and thank you very much for the opportunity to chat with you and your listeners today, and best of luck to you and your family as well.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, and music from around the globe. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino on YouTube or Spotify. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.